So the 2012 Red Poppy is one of the most sought after coins by collectors. They pay hundreds of dollars for them and they made 500,000 of them. So what if I told you there were interesting coins that were a fraction of the cost and even lower mintage? In today's video, I'll be highlighting two very cool PNCs. A PNC, as I've mentioned in one of my other videos, is a philatelic numismatic cover, which is a really fancy way of saying a stamp and coin cover. So it's an envelope. You know what? Why don't I just show you? That might be a bit easier. It is an envelope with a stamp component and a coin component. So for me, it actually ticks two boxes for my collecting hobby. The philatelic side, that is stamps. Philately is the collecting of stamps, and numismatic being the coin aspect of it, which is the collecting of coins, which is, I guess, what we're all here for. But what I've chosen is these two PNCs I've specifically highlighted for particular reasons. So first and foremost is they highlight historic parts of Australian currency history. This here highlights the Centenary of Australian Commonwealth coinage. So we'll get into the coin to begin with. We have a depiction, 4 different effigies. You have Edward VII, followed by his successor, George V, who was then the throne changed to George VI, who was Elizabeth II's father. So at the very end there you have the Mary Gillick portrait of Elizabeth II. So you've got 4 effigies on the one coin, which I think is pretty cool. And then on the obverse you have the Ian Rank Broadley portrait of Elizabeth II, of course, there. So the mintage of this coin, it's a little complicated in the sense that they issue them in a number of different formats. You'll see them in a mint mark pack, as well as individual coins, and then in the PNC form. So the total mintage is somewhere around 250,000, which is quite a bit lower than a coin like the Red Poppy. And that's not to say that, it should be worth so much more because of the lower mintage. There are a number of factors that go into determining the market value of a coin. Coins such as these were never issued for circulation, so it's not something that you were likely to see in your change at the shops. If you do, it's because an unfortunate collector, and it's been known to happen, if the kids get hold of your coin collection and decide to break it out and take it down to the milk bar. Sad, but occasionally true, unfortunately. So if you get one in your change, you're very lucky. So my personal favorite part of this particular PNC is the stamp component. So you have here, this is referred to as a mini sheet. So in stamp collecting, the actual stamps are the central part here. And when you see a mini sheet, that's when you have all of the additional artwork around the border. There's also a little write-up on the anniversary of Commonwealth coinage there, which gives you a bit of an overview of each of the denominations that were in use. I think PNCs are a really interesting aspect to collecting because it also gives you information. So I've actually learnt quite a bit about numismatics through reading the information on the back of PNCs. And it's worth noting, this is something that I think it's pretty well known, but it's something that I often forget about with PNCs, is there's actually a card. So you have the envelope part, and the coin is often housed in a card with some additional information on there. So if you've got a PNC collection already, and you haven't done so, it's probably worth taking out the card and having a bit of a look, because you might learn a little more information about the subject. So there you have the first highlight, the Centenary of Australian Commonwealth coinage PNC. Fun fact, it wasn't until 1916 that we actually started producing our own coins at the Melbourne Mint. Up until then, they were all produced in London and sent over. Next up, we have the Holey Dollar and Dump. It goes along with the story of Lachlan Macquarie. I did a video maybe a couple of years ago talking about him. He's a very, very interesting character, and these are actually technically Australia's first ever coins. So the coin has the stylized depiction of a Holey dollar with the dump in the center. The way they've had to do it on the coin, it looks like it's still all in one piece, but they are two separate coins. And then on the back, or the obverse, another Ian Rank Broadley depiction of Elizabeth II. This stamp this is probably the coolest stamp that Australia Post has ever produced. It has the same sort of textured finish as the last one that we looked at, but the subject matter just sort of elevates it quite a bit for me. You also have $3.60 in terms of face value on the stamps. So yeah, a fair bit of postage power, you could say. Once again, on the back side of the PNC, you have a bit of a story, an overview on how the Holey dollars and dumps came to be. So it's worth a read. And inside the envelope, once again, we have a card with an image of Lachlan Macquarie, and then on the back side, a really cool image of the Holey dollar and dump. These PNCs for me represent an interesting piece of Australian currency history, as well as a really interesting gateway, I guess you could say, for new collectors. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg to start up a coin collection, particularly with PNCs, which also give you a really good, a bit of information on the subject matter. So you could get, just a coin by itself, and that's nice and you appreciate it for what it is. But I find that PNCs often bridge that gap and explain to you the significance of the subject matter without having to go out and seek that information yourself. Obviously, you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you like in terms of collecting, but if you don't have a spare $100,000 to buy a Holey dollar and then another, $20,000 to buy a nice dump, the PNC can be a really good starting point and also just give you some information. So it's a good fun area of collecting. You'll notice that I'll be uploading quite a few more PNCs on the website, so there should be a decent amount of stock to peruse through. But even if you're not buying from me, if you just have your own collection, like I said earlier, take a look, open them up, have a look inside at the little story card on the inside, and read the back of them. You'll find that there's a lot of cool information, and you might learn something new. So at any rate, there'll be a few more PNC videos coming out. I hope you enjoy this one, and let me know what you think of the new camera angle. My wife told me she didn't like looking at my double chin with the low angle, so I've raised it up a bit. Let me know what you think, and if you've got a favourite PNC, let me know about it. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you in the next video.